by Wilhelm Huff. Wilhelm Huff, yes. try to read that. Fuck. Here they are. You cannot see them. And, in the 19th oh, complicated. Well, hi guys, welcome to my channel. And today in this video I want to share with you my top 10 books which made my life what it is. In this video I'm gonna talk about 10 books. Here they are. The books that made me love reading, made me think differently about some sides of everyday life, and even think differently about reading in general. I just want to share my thoughts and opinion with you. So I cannot say that these books are amazing, these books are worth reading, really, but they are valuable for me personally. In my home library there are more than maybe 300 books. I don't know really. But I can say that only 10 of them really changed my life and my lifestyle maybe, and my way of reading and understanding books. The first story is a fairy tale, and you all know this fairy tale. It is called Dwarf Nose by Wilhelm Huff. It looks so bad. Yes, it is even without cover, but this is the first book, the first fairy tale, the first story, I don't know, which I fell in love with. I wasn't in love with reading at that time, but I was in love with this story, with this fairy tale. I don't know why. And even when I was a child, I try to understand. I remember that I try to understand human nature. It is a real fairy tale with a catching and moving characters and storyline. So I loved it. I used to love this fairy tale when I was a child. And Dwarf Nose, also a story which, you know, I read it some times, maybe 3 or 4 times, and after that I was retelling it. I was retelling this story to my grandpa, and it was kind of funny because it was so annoying, I think, for him, but he was listening to me every single time. So this is the first story which really made my life what it is, because it was the first step in my my reading life. Next book and the next author which I'm going to talk about is William Hope Hodgson and his collection of short stories, which in Russian is called The Gates for the Monster, and I don't really know how it is called in English. I'm so sorry. Maybe I will find it and will edit right here, right there, I don't know. This is a book which my granddad used to read to me before going to bed. William Hope Hodgson was that kind of authors who wrote in a gothic style like Edgar Allan Poe. His short stories are really scary. Yeah, they're spooky because they're about ghosts, about, mystical investigations in old castles and old mansions with ghosts, with monsters, something like that. I was terrified. I was hiding under my blanket and shivering, but I loved it. I tried to read them myself, and it was such a pleasure to me. So it was okay for a 10-year-old girl. So I can say that this book, this collection of short stories by William Hope Hodgson is really important for me and my life as a life of a reader, because it was like a little brick in a big wall after that. I can say that I fell in love with books after reading this particular book. I was really not fond of reading when I was a child. After that, I was like, wow, reading can be even better than watching a movie. It's like watching a movie, but inside your head. So, and this book is Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. And this is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And I know that this is the second part of the story, but it was the first one which I read first. My granddad, he wrote this book to me, and he said, read it. You watch the movie, so read it. And I read it. And yeah, I loved it. I love it. I still love it. I know this story about a boy who survived is a story which my generation of 1990s was raised on. I understood that reading can be great after reading Harry Potter. When I was a teenager, I tried to read, I don't know, almost everything. I was looking for something that I can fell in love with and take it and hold it through all of my life. It was like searching and searching and searching. So at the time I read a lot of like teenager adventures, which were full of ghosts and monsters. And one of those stories is, I beg your pardon, The Campfire, Sleep Over the Campfire by Sharon Simon, because in Russian it is called The Black Rider, The Campfire, The Black Rider, so the difference is huge. And Sharon Simon is an author who is pretty similar to Eliza Jane Smith and Robert Stein. The Campfire is a story about Ghost Rider without a head, like mind read story, but it is pretty different. As far as I remember, 3 girls and a boy, they have to investigate this interesting ghost case about this ghost rider, and at the same time they have to take part in equestrian competitions. So it was a book which was perfect for me. Horses, ghosts, investigations, detective story, it is all in one. It was all in one, so it was so perfect to me, and I used to read it and reread it over and over again. So I was just, I was insane about it. So the next one is Full Moon by Jim Butcher. Jim Butcher is one of my favorite authors ever. I read it at that stage of my life when I was was trying myself as a writer. And I understood that even in such kind of horror stories, you can use all of your humor. I really feel that it means a lot to me. And it is pretty humorous. I love humorous books, even if it's horror stories. Why not? For me, it was like a teaching guide at that time. And right now, it is like just something that I can grab and take some rest, laughing and getting scared at the same time. By the way, Stephen King. I said that Jim Butcher, one of my favorite authors, alongside with Stephen King. I have some books by Stephen King, but this particular one is called Stephen King Goes to the Movies. So Why this book particularly? This is the collection of short stories which were adapted for the movies. We all know that Stephen King writes mystical and horror stories, and um, there are always something unusual in his novels and short stories. But this particular short story made me think about Stephen King as a real life author and great real life author. And I'm talking about Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. Okay, Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption is a short story about a prison and a man who was in that prison, um, and he tries to escape. I wasn't even thinking about anything at all except this story because I was in it. It was so catching, so incredibly touching and moving at the same time. It was like, whoa. After Shawshank Redemption, I understood that Stephen King can be just not a king of horror, but a king of literature in general, because he's amazing at everything. It doesn't matter what he writes about, he's amazing at everything. I advise you to read it. And yes, this is in my list, my top 10 books which made my life what it is. This next book, I have it in Russian and in English, so you can read the name. Yes, it is The Great Gatsby by Francis Scott Fitzgerald. After reading it, I remember that I was almost crying. I have already told you about this book and my feelings about this book in one of my previous videos. This story about following the American dream, and this is like American tragedy, and still it is about human love. It's just about human love. And when everything ends, and Gatsby ends his life the way he ends it, yes, you feel like you are empty. It is heartbreaking, and it's not heartbreaking because you feel sorry about the character. Okay, let's be honest, we all have something which we are sorry about and which we regret about. And The Great Gatsby makes you rethink everything. That's why I feel that this book is important for my life as a reader and my life in general. After The Great Gatsby, I understood that I can read classical literature. And the next one, after watching the adaptation, watching the series by BBC, I read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. Elizabeth Gaskell had that kind of language which is timeless. Yes, it is a great word, timeless. In the 19th century, she was a woman, obviously, and in the 19th century, which she lived in, it was fashionable to write about social problems, but it was like for men, not for women. But she did it. Still, she wrote a story about love. That's why this is so great. Please read it if you haven't read it yet. It is so good. I don't even know what to say, but this is so good, and this is one of the best pieces of classical literature, I think, in my opinion. I think so. And I have never got bored of reading it and rereading it and rewatching the series. It is amazing. And this next one is also a piece of classical literature, because right now I'm focused on reading classical literature, American and English and German ones. I know nothing about the author's biography, but I can say that it is impossible to write such a story without getting so hurt and without getting so involved in painful um, realities. And I'm talking about Hades Castle by Archibald Crowley. Right now, it is even hard to tell about this book because I didn't even know what to say. It is just, it's like whole life that you have to live through. I know some people who hate this book, and I can say why they hate it. Because it can be boring a little bit if you like happy stories and romantic stories. Yes, there are a lot of romance here, but also there are a lot of tough and painful situation. If you're not ready to read such kind of books, you can get bored and get annoyed. It is not strange, it's just not for everyone. Oh, I think that every book is not for everyone, but you have to live through the story. You just read, just live through it. And after that, you can think about it more. Believe me, it is heartbreaking. Well, the last book from my list isn't here, as you can see, because I was reading it, taking it from the library. It is by Alison Weir, and it's called Anne of Cleaves, Queen of Secrets. It's just one book of a series about Henry the Eighth wives. You know about his most popular wife. It was Anne Boleyn, and she was beheaded. She was executed, as well as his another wife, Catherine Parr, as far as I remember. And Anne of Cleves was his fourth wife. She wasn't executed, and she was maybe the luckiest wife of the king. She didn't become a queen. She wasn't coronated, but she was patient, she was tolerant, and she was wise. And that's why I really like the story, because I felt like it is my type of a person. And I also like to read stories and to watch stories which take place from the very beginning and till the very end of the character's life. Before reading this book, I thought that it is quite boring to read about, historical characters, real historical characters. But I understood that it is not so. It can be interesting, as Weir is a great author because she can write. Yes, she can write smoothly, but with those twists which you need as a reader, which can catch you, which is really important. So I decided to add Alison Weir and her Queen of Secrets, Anne of Cleves, in my list of the books which made my life what it is, because right now I understand that I can widen the circle of genres that I like. So it is pretty important for me as a reader. So this is it. This is my top 10 books that made my life what it is. Of course, this is my personal opinion. You can agree with my opinion or you can disagree with it. I have to admit that this is important to figure out what your life consists of. You get to know yourself better. Take your time, just sit and think of it. So this is it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you like it, give you a thumbs up, and you can write your comments below. It is always nice of you when you write something. Yeah, thank you so much, and bye bye.